Hi guys. So in this little video, I'd like to talk about what it means to be alive. Right? And so we all know what living things are, right? Like it's pretty easy to determine that a rabbit is alive, but a rock is not, right? Like this glass cleaner, not alive, right? But the cute little bacteria that are on my hand, definitely alive. We all know these things, but the question is, where do we draw that line? Right? What are the specific qualifications of life? How do we define something being alive? A prime example of this question is viruses. Right? Are viruses alive? They're very similar to bacteria in many, many ways, but they're also vastly different. Right? They have their own little existence, going around, replicating, living, moving. Are they living though? Spoiler alert, they're not. They're not living things. Viruses are not alive. Right? But the question is why? Why are viruses not alive? Why are they not a living thing? They might as well be a rock. Right? So if we look at the qualifications of life that I've listed so conveniently on the whiteboard next to my beautiful face, right, we can see that there are some definite points that need to be hit in order for something to be considered alive. Okay? If you meet all these qualifications, congratulations, you're a living thing. Okay? So the first is the ability to grow and repair. Right? So we need to be able to build up our body and maintain that body. If something happens to our body, we need to be able to fix it to stay alive. Right? So that's a qualification of living things. They need to be able to grow and they need to be able to repair themselves. Now, different organisms do this to different degrees, of course, but overall, all organisms are able to do this. The second point on here is they must be able to reproduce themselves. Right? We need to be able to make more copies of ourselves. And now, if we do that asexually, like bacteria do, that's quite literally a copy of oneself. Right? You have one bacteria, it splits in half, you get two bacteria, they split in half, you get four bacteria. Right? Now, as you get higher up in the evolutionary timeline, we start doing sexual reproduction. And obviously, our copies are not exact copies of ourselves. But we're making more humans, we're making more bunnies if we're bunnies, we're making more trees if we're trees. You need to make more of yourself, and you need to be able to do it yourself. Right? This is where the caveat for viruses comes into play. Viruses are not alive because they can't do this themselves. They need to steal the mechanisms of other organisms in order to reproduce. Okay? The third qualification is the ability to respond to the environment. Okay, this comes in two parts. You need to be able to sense the environment, so something's changing outside of you, and you need to be able to do something about it. Okay, so this comes in terms of movement. All living things are able to move to some degree. Okay? For us, it's a lot. For trees, it's a little bit, right? But there's movement going on. No matter if you're alive, you can move. Okay? The fourth is the directed use of energy. Okay? Organisms need to be able to utilize energy intentionally. So we harness energy from the outside world and we use it to do stuff that we want to do. A lot of that stuff is maintaining homeostasis, which is bullet point number 5 in my list, right? And so in order to stay us, we need to keep our inside conditions what it is, right? And so if my inside conditions is 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, my body functions at that temperature. I want my body to stay at that temperature. If I get too hot, I start sweating to bring it down. Right? If I get too cold, I might shiver to bring it back up. Right? But regardless of what's going on outside of my life existence, I'm trying to maintain that balance. That's homeostasis. And the last, but also critical point, is that we must be made of cells. Right? That's a condition of being alive, is that we're made up of cells. Now, personally, I don't know how I feel about that as a condition for life. It's definitely a condition for life here on Earth, right? But I don't know if all extraterrestrial life would be required to be made of cells. I can imagine some systems of life that would exist without what we think of as cells. But there has to be some kind of distinct unit of life, right? Here on Earth, that happens to be cells. Cool, that's it. That's how you know if you're alive. If you're not one of these things, if you're missing one of these things, you ain't alive. Congratulations, you a rock. Bye.